Anybody you meet, wherever you
Mhm.
encounter in your life, can teach you something.
Welcome back to the Kind Culture podcast with Alex, Dydine, and
Our special guest host,
Consolee
Consolee
Nishimwe.
Nishimwe.
yes,
Get used to her. Get used to her
yes.
voice. She will be joining us throughout all these seasons, and we can't wait to share uh, the world of kindness, the culture of kindness with all of you guys.
Those of us who who've kept up with the Mucho podcast prior to the Kind Culture
Right.
show, and other endeavors of ours,
Yeah.
we all
Mhm.
know you, Consolee, and what you bring to the table,
Yes.
and your stories, and more importantly, your spirit and your capacity for kindness.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored, and being with you, it's really an honor for me. So you exude kindness. This family. So this is my
Mm.
favorite family to be part
Oh, you are our
Oh,
favorite too. You're my big sister. And I am happy to say that I've learned so much from you over the years. And so I can't wait for people who are going to listen to this episode to learn as much as they can from you. Maybe some from me and maybe some from Alex.
of.
We're here to share our experiences, our views, our opinions, and we welcome whoever's listening to share their opinions as well. On this episode, we will be exploring, go deeper into how small acts of kindness can uh, can create significant and lasting effects
yep.
all around the world.
Hmm.
And from our own personal stories, we will all go through and share our parts, and hopefully we inspire someone who
Yeah,
will be listening to this episode.
yeah.
So we did an intro. The first episode we did introduce who we are, and I feel like today we should introduce Consolee who you are, because our listeners will know who Alex and Dydine are, and a little bit of Consolee. She is also from Rwanda.
Mhm.
She's a genocide survivor, a genocide that occurred in 1994. It was a genocide against the Tutsis, and she's one of the few survivors. And she's written an incredible book, Tested to the Limit.
Mhm.
You should all find it on Amazon or everywhere else that you can find books and read it. It's an
Yeah.
incredible read. She's an activist, women activist. She's a public speaker. She's an educator. I mean, she wears so many hats. And now
Yeah.
a co-host of
Yeah.
Kind Culture.
Constantly, you do a lot. Yeah, I
Yes,
think we should
You're
give,
yeah.
shaking
give you a
me.
little round of applause there.
Like I've done a lot so far,
Yeah.
but I've never done, not really. It's just a little bit. Yeah, just a,
Oh, you feel like
Okay.
it's a little bit.
yeah.
I can't wait for when it's gonna feel more like
Yeah,
that.
right.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Because I feel like you've done a lot.
All right,
Why
so
not?
let's start with you, Didine. Can
Oh,
you think of
Mm.
an event in your life or an example of a small act of kindness that you have experienced or you have given to somebody,
mm.
and how that has sort of had a ripple effect
Mhm.
to grow into something more than you experienced?
I mean, I have so many stories of kindness. Like we mentioned in the first episode, how growing up in a post-genocide in Rwanda, kindness, empathy, it's something that we was no other option but just to embrace it because we had, it was, I don't know what word you used, out of necessity, like being kind,
Mm,
receiving kindness was out of necessity.
yeah.
And so it was normalized growing up that when there was an absence of kindness, it kind of felt abnormal for us.
Mhm.
And so and so there were so many stories, and we're gonna go through all these stories throughout the season and the next season and the following season.
Yeah.
But today I will share a little bit of my, I think, maybe say my first experience
Mhm.
with empathy,
Mhm.
and I think, and the kindness.
Mhm.
And this story, if this moment didn't happen to me, I wouldn't even be here today sharing this story. And I feel like this story gave me a second chance at life.
Mm,
Mhm.
And it inspires me every time I share it. I feel like, or think about it, it inspires me to
Mhm.
keep going, to not give up. I think on life. Like we never know when we're gonna have that second chance. We never know when something good is gonna happen
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Yeah, yeah. So it's in my book, Embracing Survival. For those who've read it, they already know the story. For those who've been in my audience, know the story. But for those of you who don't know me and who don't know anything about my my upbringing, I'm when during genocide, I was very young. I was almost 4 years old.
Mm.
And for those who knows anything about war or genocides, it's it's the it's the most unimaginable, I think, horror event in the human history. And going through it, you just like how like why as so, you don't know, you don't know that you'll be born in a place where that's going to happen or the time that's going to happen. So
Yep.
unfortunately, uh Consolee, you and I were, there. um and so I remember the first day of the genocide, when I had been separated from my entire family, um and lined up with other Tutsi families, old adults who are going to be killed, and someone, an elderly person who knew my family, they were neighbors, I mean, during genocide, probably Constance is probably gonna go deeper into it. The perpetrators were not people that you did not know.
Mm.
They were not like random people. They were people that you shared meals with. There were people that they were your neighbors,
Yeah. Community members.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So they weren't like strangers.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think my young mind, when I was separate from everyone, I ran there probably thinking, because I know there. So, my young mind self, or not say that, ended up there because it might have been a familiar place.
Yeah.
But the family, they were perpetrators, and they had in their home, that's where they would collect all people and exterminate them. That's the word they use. And so the father of the people who are killing everyone, heard from inside the house. You've heard this story a million times, you guys. And somehow he sees me in the line, and I don't know how he got pity or whatever, but something in him clicked that he felt compelled of taking me out of that line and save me. And he put pretty much his life in the line to do that,
Mm.
because he could have been killed as well, because it happened so many so many stories in Rwanda that someone was killed because they were saving a family or someone,
Right.
and so he could have chose differently, and he saved my life. And I think that, I mean there was more things happening during genocide, and there was a long way to go. But if he wasn't there that moment, and if he didn't have that, that kindness in him to put his life in line and save me, I wouldn't be sitting here. i
Yeah.
would I would have been, maybe not forgotten, but I would have been able to experience yeah. And so I think every time I think of that, I feel like, okay, kindness is possible. There's more good people in the world than we think.
Yep.
Even though we were my first, interaction with the world was that history, genocide, you could easily lose hope in humanity.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Fear and terror. Fear and
Yeah.
terror. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, fear and terror, but
Mm,
those little moments can bring you back to life. Of like, okay, okay, I'm here, I'm alive, I
mm,
can do more. I was maybe, I survived for a reason, and those things gives you hope. And so that was a dark story. I apologize,
No,
guys.
no, no.
But
Don't apologize.
yeah, but that's, I think, one of the beginning for my life to experience empathy, kindness from someone who could have went by his day without doing anything.
Right.
And that taught me so
yeah.
much about the
Mhm, mhm.
kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah.
That's
So in
good.
his mind, I'm thinking maybe he felt it was something small.
Yeah.
It was
But
a
it's
little,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Yeah.
might have thought it was something small. But for me, I mean, that's life for me.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I can just imagine. And that was the first day,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
That
first day
was
of the
that was
genocide.
yeah.
Mm.
On
But
April
in that,
7th.
and of
Yeah.
course, nobody knew how long it was going to
Yeah.
go on,
No.
Mm-hmm.
particularly or
No.
that early on.
No.
Mm.
And to him, I mean, that could have been dangerous for him
Yeah.
Yeah.
to try to protect you
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so things moving very quickly. You may
Mm-hmm.
just be like, okay, quickly, just
Yeah.
hide, right? That
Yeah.
may be a small,
Yeah.
quick moment for him. He, I'm sure, knew the
Mm-hmm.
significance of like
Yeah.
saving this person. I'm attempting to save this person's life,
Yeah.
but for you
Yeah.
to have experienced that, that was your entire life.
That's really powerful story because even in the midst of the genocide,
Yeah.
someone can be kind enough
I
to do
know.
something good.
Even
Yeah,
at the darkest
Even
place. Yeah.
saying like there's a risk for him to be
Mhm.
killed too.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's a big question too.
Yeah.
If we're presented with a similar situation, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a big question. It's not always that we are in that, in the middle of a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
It happened to us. What kind of choices will we make
Mm-hmm.
in that instance?
Right.
That's
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big question that we
yeah,
can
Mm-hmm.
all ask ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in times where we see that
Mm-hmm.
we might not have, our cup might be empty to give any kindness, anything
yeah,
to other people, which happens.
definitely. And I
Yeah.
mean, there's also the element. I think if you ask anybody,
Mm-hmm.
9.5 out of 10 people would say, "Oh yeah, of course I would do that, no questions."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
given the situation, given the
Yeah.
anxiety and the
Yeah.
adrenaline
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and the real sense of,
Mm-hmm.
if I make the wrong move here, something
Right.
awful could happen to me and my family.
Yeah.
That is the, I think, is a true testament to that man's character
Yeah.
to behave and
Mm-hmm.
to
Absolutely.
give that kindness
Yeah.
I
in the
agree.
midst of the
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
terror.
Yeah.
Terror. Yeah.
That's,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would assume most people would like to assume that we would behave
Yeah.
in the same
Mm.
way. And
But if
maybe
you find yourself in that situation, it might be different. But
it may be, but
yeah.
maybe that's where
Yeah.
the practice
Yes.
Oh
comes
yeah.
in beforehand, to where,
Mm-hmm.
if
Yeah.
something does happen,
Yeah.
you've
Mm-hmm.
already equipped yourself with the ability and the tools to give
Mm-hmm.
those acts of kindness to people in need,
Yeah.
despite the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
extreme circumstances.
Absolutely.
Actually, it even shows like someone like that to be able to do something like that is
Mm.
just if you look into his life,
Yeah.
probably you'll find that he has lived since probably
Mhm.
early on in his life doing small
Yeah.
things, even
Yeah.
small things, and
Yeah.
because it's something that grows within you.
Alex.
Me.
Mhm.
Yes. So
Yes.
in your world, storytelling,
Hmm.
Alejandro,
Hmm.
you have, I know that you're interested in kindness in the ways that people don't think about it as much. I feel like you follow stories, you read books, you do all these things that inspired. Sometimes you tell me those stories, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't even think about it that way. and
Yeah.
and so I'm like, we're hoping that you can share with us a narrative of a story, something that inspired you about kindness,
Mm.
and the beautiful chain reaction that an act of kindness can uh you know ca-
Yeah.
can do
Yeah. 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 Okay.
in this in the storytelling world.
Yeah.
Yes. Storytelling.
Yes.
Okay. So as you were saying that, I was trying to think of a something very
And how we can
specific.
use storytelling
Yeah.
to amplify
Yeah.
kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I may, and I
Yes.
know I've used this example in the past, but
Yeah.
it's Harry Potter.
Oh,
Oh, Harry Potter.
But no, listen, and there,
how did I forget it? Yeah, yeah.
listen. Okay,
Yes,
so let
the
me
Harry
just,
Potter lovers are gonna love you.
yes.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So Harry Potter, despite people's feelings of,
Mhm.
I think we should
Yeah,
address
yeah.
Joanne Rowling, J.K.
Oh, the
Rowling.
writer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can separate the controversy of the author from the incredible
The
storytelling, in
work.
my opinion, in the work.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
So the story of Harry Potter, the character.
Mm,
Mhm.
So I read the book. I read the first book like
yeah.
1999, maybe
Mm,
like 3 or 4 years after it originally came out,
mhm.
Right.
and I was captivated by the world building
Mhm.
and the
Ah,
storytelling, and how rich the characters were, and we were
Yeah.
similar-ish in age,
Yeah.
Mm.
and so that was exciting for a young person, young boy, to kind of
Yeah.
grow up with that. So you kind of
Mm-hmm.
like relate certain
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
aspects of your life with their life, and
Yeah.
so around the time the movies came out, particularly in the US, I think it was around 2001. That's when they
Mm-hmm.
came out.
I remember. Yeah.
I was in, and so in, for non-US school goers,
Mm-hmm.
schooling is first elementary school, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and
Ah.
there's certain ages that accompany with that. And
Yes.
so I went to school. I was in first grade
Yeah.
the same time Harry
Was going
was
to.
going to school for the first time in first grade in this elementary school. So I felt a
Yeah.
lot of
He was
parallels
your
in
age
my mind.
mate.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, just briefly, the story of Harry Potter,
Yeah.
uh, for the uninitiated,
Yeah.
Harry was orphaned. His
Yeah.
parents were killed,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
And he had a terrible first 11 or 10 years of his life with his family, who
Yeah.
Mm.
extended family, who treated him horribly,
Yeah.
horribly.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
the young Harry Potter,
Mm-hmm.
he obviously didn't have a great experience as a person. He felt like everybody around him hated
Mm-hmm.
him, didn't want him
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that personally, but I think we can all sort of relate to an
Yeah.
extent of
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
not
Feeling
feeling
unheard and
Mm.
unheard and
mm,
unappreciated and just
Unseen, not
right.
seen
yeah.
and not heard.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
so he eventually gets admitted to the school, Hogwarts, and
Mhm.
finds friendship, finds people the first time in his life who sees him for him,
Wow.
accepts him for the tragedies of his life and the things
Mm-hmm.
that he doesn't necessarily understand about his life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward over the course of the next 7 years, of course,
Mm-hmm.
he confronts these demons and ultimately
Mm-hmm.
vanquishes
Mm.
the foe and comes out victorious. Not without additional tragedy. He lost
Yeah.
people in his
Right.
life, heartfelt relationships that were taken away from him, and so
Mm-hmm.
on and so forth. So the story of Harry,
Mm.
it really, I think, shaped who I was as
Mm-hmm.
not only a storyteller but as an actor.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Harry Potter was the real thing that made me want to get into acting. That
Ah.
was the first time
Yeah.
that I had experienced real empathy, I feel, within
Yes.
storytelling, and
Yeah.
in a way that it made sense to me. So
Mm.
and it was just entertainment for
Yeah.
most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But looking at it from a technical perspective of like,
Mm-hmm.
how did they write these characters,
Yeah.
to have such rich,
Mm-hmm.
powerful, relatable stories,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and how do these actors
Right.
portray that
Yeah.
in such a believable way for
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it really awakened this thing within me that sort of taught me how to
Yeah.
translate that to my own life.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't, I don't, we don't live in a magical world,
Right.
Yes.
so far as we can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't have all these extraordinary things happening all the time, but there was a real humanity within
Right.
these characters. And
Mm.
I connected with it so, so deeply.
Yeah.
And so reading these books and watching these movies was incredibly cathartic for me,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
particularly as a teenager who didn't necessarily always feel understood,
Yeah.
or I may have had a bad or challenging stretch of days or
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah. There's an incredible empathy and love in those movies, especially what's the name of the big guy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Big guy?
Hagrid.
Hagrid. And
Yeah.
the love and the empathy that he had for Harry for
Yes.
nothing in return. It was
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
that uncle that we are not related by
Right.
blood,
No, but
but
there's a deep
the deep
caring for.
yes.
And so, yeah, I was going down my rabbit hole
Oh,
there, but that
sorry,
was
sorry.
actually the point that I wanted to make.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, his initiation,
yeah,
he
Right.
was kind of plucked out of anonymity in his mind,
yeah,
and this giant
yeah,
Hagrid,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this huge person who might be seen as a monster or scary,
yeah,
this
Mm-hmm.
massive heart, and tells
Mm-hmm.
Harry, like, listen, you're not a waste of space.
mm,
Right.
You are more important than you realize,
mm,
Mm-hmm.
and you have people. If you come with me, I
Mm-hmm.
will introduce you to a world and several people who care for you,
Right.
and show you the love that you have desperately needed and
oh,
have been
Mm-hmm.
missing in life,
That's
and
beautiful.
deserve.
deserve. And that was an act of kindness,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was, I think, transformative,
yeah,
and incredibly exciting to see,
yeah,
especially for young
Mm-hmm.
kids like myself, seeing
Yeah.
that portrayed
Mm-hmm.
like that. And so
yeah,
And again, how that branches out. He has friends who become his family, and for
Yeah.
me, I was like, man, I can't wait till I have
Yeah.
friends like that who I
Mm-hmm.
trust deeply and
Mm-hmm.
desperately,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
are family in the same way that blood is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I can go on and on and on, but that was, I think, one of the most meaningful
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
fictional stories that
Yeah.
have had the greatest impact on me personally
Mm-hmm.
and artistically as
Yeah.
well.
Harry Potter has an entire, like, millions of people,
Oh yeah,
a
yeah,
whole generation of people that grew up on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and inspired a lot of kids to trust themselves,
mhm,
to be
Yeah.
powerful, to become powerful, to trust their voice, to have the friendship that you
yeah,
talked
yeah.
about. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's, I think you introduced me actually to this. I had seen few movies back home of,
Mhm.
not all of them, but I feel like here in the US, or maybe in Europe as well,
Of
young
course,
people,
Europe. Yeah.
millennials grew
Mm-hmm.
up in this
Yeah.
in uh,
Mm-hmm.
series,
Yes, we
and I
did.
think it might have really helped a lot of young people to know
I'm
about
sure it did. I
culture.
think I think when it came out, I could have read the books, but for some
Yeah,
reason, I feel like maybe it's for young people.
They
So
are
yeah,
for they are children's books, but there's
yeah,
of course. But I
yeah,
think I was told or read
yeah,
something around books in films and television.
yeah,
yeah.
There's a difference between children's, and this may not be the right terminology, but there's a difference between like immature
right.
Mm,
or dumbing down. I'll say that dumbing down the writing for
yeah,
children
yeah,
to where only children would find it enjoyable,
yeah,
and then writing stories of children
yeah,
that is smart
yeah,
and still has an emotional like throughway
Yeah,
yeah.
to where everybody,
Can,
adults,
yeah.
older people,
yeah.
and children alike, can find
Mm-hmm.
the same lessons,
Mm-hmm.
and adults can find the
Yes.
reminders, and they're like, oh,
That's
okay,
true.
yeah, of course
Yeah.
I can
Very true.
think
Mm.
about. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think the world of Harry Potter does an
Yeah.
incredible job
Yeah,
of
it
of
does.
that, of
Yeah.
being for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think now you're making me more like buying for my nieces and nephews.
yeah.
The
Yes.
gift for Christmas will be Harry Potter's books.
They
I,
they
I
probably already have them.
they
Yeah,
might they
Right?
might
they're not going
yeah.
to like me
Yeah.
bringing books all the time. Books, books, books.
Well,
But this time
that's
around,
my opinion. This is the opinion
mm,
a millennial who
Yeah.
yeah,
had a great impact on me.
that's
But Consulate,
beautiful.
do
Hmm.
you mind sharing, if you have one, a story of a small act of kindness
Yes,
that had
well,
rippled into something
hmm
greater than you would
Mm.
have anticipated?
hmm I have yeah, you've shared many, you've shared some good stories. So as I was thinking about mine,
Mm.
uh, one of the stories that came through my mind is a story during the genocide. So I remember this particular place we are going to hide during the genocide,
Mm.
and it was during the night, and my
Mm.
mom decided to go to the house. Of course, during the genocide, like many people know, you have to knock on doors, going through the
Yeah.
bushes and all places, whatever you might find somebody was kind enough to,
Yeah.
to do a kind thing, being kind, show
Yep.
kindness.
Yeah.
Uh, and like you said earlier, these are the people that we knew. No one was a stranger. So even if you go to someone, that means that this is a person you know very well. So
Mm.
it wasn't somebody that, coming from somewhere else. So, and my mom decided to knock on door of those people. It was in a
Mhm.
village, somewhere in the village.
Mm.
And as she was knocking on the door, because you never knew how people changed, you never knew what they were doing, some of them. And somehow the lady was part of the killing. She was not a kind person in her life.
Mm. A
And the
lady.
husband, a wife, a mom in
Yeah.
the household. And the father too was part of the killing. He was killing people,
Mm.
Mm.
actively, killing people. So, and that night when we went there, he wasn't there. The wife was there in the house. My parents, being teachers, somehow they have taught the children of the household. So as we
Um,
kept, begging, knocking the door, of course, as you can imagine, a mother with these little, children with her,
Mhm.
and the children heard my mom's voice, and they heard, they realized they are teacher.
Yeah.
She put them in school, elementary
yeah.
school. The mother was unkind, not even like
She
you
didn't
know.
care. She wants you all dead.
The kids screamed. They screamed to their mother, please, mom, help, please help our teacher. They
Oh,
begged and begged and cried and begged to a point where the mother decided to do it because of
how old were the kids?
probably they were teenagers. Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, they were teenagers. So, and she decided, to open the door just because of those kids.
Oh,
And every time I think about them, how they chose to be kind, despite the
Mhm.
fact that our parents were not kind to humans, to other fellow
Yeah.
humans,
Yeah.
really shows me how, the power, that they could probably they were able to be exposed to other people, the
Mm.
teachers who
Yeah.
have taught them how to be
Yeah.
kind, despite
Yeah.
the fact that they were with the parents who never necessarily showed them
Yeah.
how to love
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But it shows you, like, in your life, you can also impact another child's life.
Yes.
If they live in a toxic environment, but
mm,
you are a teacher, you can also, change that kid's life or wherever.
For
You know,
yeah,
forever.
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
and for me, one of the things I learned from these children is that anybody you meet, wherever you
Mm.
encounter in your life, can teach you something, even if you're in the midst of, even if you live in an
Yeah.
environment where,
Yeah.
the household is not giving you the lessons they should as
Yeah,
parents.
Mhm.
Also, where you go to school, whatever, you can learn something nice. So, and how, and I'm truly grateful for them. Every
mhm.
time
Yeah.
I think of them. They are a very good friend of my mom. Of course, they are not kids anymore. So the
Yes. Yeah.
family. So their kindness really
Yeah.
taught me a lot. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
Yeah.
changed my life. Yeah.
It reminds me of, I think someone recently just told us, Didine,
Mm.
that
Mhm.
children, young people,
Yeah.
but
Right.
particularly, kids. I know
Mhm.
you said they're teenagers,
Right.
but kids and young people,
Mm.
they still have that a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
where they can just show acts of kindness in a pure form, like you just
Right.
said,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to where acts of cruelty
Yeah.
and narcissism or inward thinking
Yeah.
is almost foreign. It's
Yeah.
almost like,
Yeah.
why on earth would you, or
Yeah.
don't you see like this is the right thing to do? Why
Mm-hmm.
would you even
Yeah.
consider doing anything else?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it just reminds me that we all should pay more attention to children and
Yeah.
Yeah.
respect children
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and their thoughts and feelings
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and how they act
Yeah.
towards other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could teach us lessons, like you had just said,
Mm-hmm.
lessons that we may have forgotten,
Yeah.
or really exercising muscles that we haven't worked
Mm-hmm.
out in a
Yeah.
long time.
And children have a lot to you can learn from. So being an
Yeah,
educator, somebody who have taught children, so I learned so much from them. So the
yeah,
kids
Yeah.
have a lot to you can learn a lot from them if you give them attention. And
They
yeah.
saved your life.
Hmm.
And by saving your life, I always share this. I was a Holocaust survivor. I always share about
Yeah.
her. Unfortunately, she passed away in the pandemic. And I remember
Yeah.
the first time I met her,
Hmm.
she she was she was telling me how I should tell my story. She was like, I was around the same age that you were, and I've been doing this my entire life, and there's nothing more greater than giving yourself to others.
yep,
Right.
And then she said, if you tell your story and you change one person's heart, it means you change the entire world.
Yeah.
So go at it. Thousands of people that you've
Mhm.
inspired, that have read your book, they probably made a whole different life path after they have experienced you. They would never have had that opportunity. Everyone who have ever told you that Consolee, meeting you or hearing you speak have changed my life, have changed the way I look at life and things like that, they would never have had that opportunity.
I'm grateful for the people
Yeah.
like those children and other people. I'm here because
Yeah.
of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw me. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Acknowledge, in the book, I try, to write the stories of the people that you really did, you know,
Yeah.
things you were in the midst of, in the midst of times that were so difficult. So, but they were
Yeah.
able to do a kind thing, being kind
Yeah.
to others. That's the reason why we're here. We need to
Yeah.
acknowledge those heroes in our
Yeah.
lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
we others will learn from them. It's not about me; it's about other people learning from them.
Thinking about all of the stories that we had, with the three stories that we had just shared,
Mm-hmm. Among many.
how do you feel like we can attribute those to the world at large? How can we
Mm.
carry these things? And how do people carry, the people who are listening to us, how do they carry their own stories of kindness,
Mm.
our own stories that we just shared, and apply them to their day to day life? How do they do that? How do we do that? Are there any tools that we have?
Well, I think just remembering
Mm,
that even though it looks for you like a small act of kindness to the
Hmm.
person you're doing it to, you're doing it for
mm-hmm,
them, it may mean the world.
Yeah.
And so never take for granted what you can do, what you're capable of doing. What our actions, I mean, you, all of us like, inspirational things that we know that our acts, everything we do really impacts the world.
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
And the world, we say, the words, we speak,
mm-hmm.
they create,
Yeah,
the actions, they impact everything that's happening.
right.
And so it's really important to remember that we have the power of making a difference in someone else's life. You have
Mm-hmm,
the power of, we talk about smiling, we have the that can be an act of kindness. I think we
yeah,
mentioned that in the first episode.
mm-hmm,
Anything small,
mm-hmm.
they say like one man's garbage, it's like I don't know, something, can you say that?
One man's garbage is another man's treasure.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
true.
And
Yeah,
that will be seen as like a joke or something, but
but
underneath that,
yeah,
it's a reminder that this may look unimportant to you,
mm-hmm,
but remember, for someone else, it might save their lives.
Yeah.
It
mm-hmm,
may give them another day to fight.
mm-hmm,
And so I think it's thinking from that perspective that can help our world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, our world can be, because they say that we have everything we need
yeah,
to, in this world, like to feed
mm-hmm,
people, for clothing,
Hmm.
but because of the greed, of
mm-hmm,
lack of empathy, lack of kindness,
mm-hmm,
you find uh, those with so much greed
mm,
keeping all the things at a places where they're not even using it,
Yeah.
right,
when someone is literally dying of not
mm-hmm,
drinking
mm-hmm,
water, not
Yeah.
finding clean water.
Right.
right, yeah,
Simple basic need. And
mm-hmm,
so these stories, I think it's to remind people, okay,
mm-hmm,
I know you're in your comfort, your comfort somewhere, but
right,
remember that if you get
that's
out of
it.
your comfort,
Mm-hmm,
you can you can help make this world a better place for
Mm.
everyone.
right.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
beautiful. That's powerful. As you were saying that, someone came through my mind. People like Gandhi, people
Yes.
like Mother Teresa.
Mm.
These are the people who have done things. They were not necessarily like wealthy,
No.
Hmm.
but the things they have done, it were teaching people how to be kind to
Mhm.
people who are marginalized, people
Mhm.
who are nobody cares about. You know, they were
Mhm.
Hmm.
showing us like being unwanted, uncared.
Yeah.
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 It's the worst thing that anybody
Yeah.
feel within their heart. Yeah. So in every, I think, even never underestimate small
Mhm.
acts of kindness wherever you are,
Hmm.
even by doing something small at the store with a stranger. When you find somebody at the store who don't have money, who's trying to buy something but they don't have money, but
Yeah.
somehow you need it, but you do it, so somehow you
Yep.
may make that person feel good about themselves, and it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is a blessing. Or even find a homeless guy whenever
Mm.
who is trying to get something for
Yeah.
themselves. They never ask you know to be in
No.
that position. It could be
No.
anyone who can be in that position. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
even by looking at them and say, you'll be all right. And even if you
Mhm.
don't have change, or if you don't have anything, in your pocket, but at
Yeah.
the same time acknowledge their
Yeah.
humanity. Look at them,
Mhm.
and you'll be okay.
With me, I feel
Mhm.
stories have the power to transform,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even stories that have been oversaturated. Maybe Harry Potter is known by
Yes.
Mhm.
everybody around the world, most people around the world.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so the lessons can sometimes be diluted by the popularity of it, or
Mm.
maybe even now in the age of
Yeah.
social media, the jokes
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
maybe kind of dilute a lot of the original intentions of
Right behind it.
lessons that were intended to
Yes.
be taught.
Mhm.
But if you can remember to sort of take a step back
Mhm.
and look at whatever your favorite story
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
whatever it's a TV show, a book,
Mhm.
a comic book, whatever it may be,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
it's important to remember
Yeah.
the transformative power
Yeah.
of those stories. They inspire you for a reason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if they mean something to you, don't let that dissipate over the course of time.
Mm.
Just
Yeah.
because it's no longer new to you,
Yeah.
Harry Potter is no longer new to me, but those
Mhm.
lessons, because I keep on revisiting them and
Yeah.
Right.
revisiting what they meant to me as a child
And
and
what
what
they
they
mean
mean to
to you
me
as an
now as an
adult.
adult,
Yeah.
that I think if I needed it to, I'm sure it could help
Yeah.
be something that could pick me up
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh,
having
Mhm.
a good time
of
in life.
course.
And
Yeah.
Yes.
so,
I'm
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
my sort of I don't know, closing thought with that is
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
stories can be powerful and transformative. I think you had a TED talk or
Yeah.
something, Dean,
Yeah.
about
Yes, that was so
the
good.
healing power of storytelling.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, storytelling can be healing. It can
It
be
can be.
Oh yes,
transformative.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So.
yeah,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, if you guys who are listening, if you have a kindness story that you've experienced or you've seen or you've heard, please share it with us on our social media, on
Hmm.
our website,
Yeah.
Kind Culture Instagram page, or our website, kindculture.org, YouTube, in the
YouTube,
comments. And
drop all the stories in
yes,
the comments down
I
below. Y'all know
know.
what to do.
I
Yeah.
know. I know. So you can be kind and followers and
Mm.
subscribe. Be kind.
Maybe you could suggest yourselves to be on the show. Tell something.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we can have
Yes.
segments if you all want to come on and share
Yes.
your
Mhm.
stories
Mhm.
in an episode. Yeah, we would love to have you all.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, please come. We have these episodes coming out every Monday.
City.
Consolee is in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
so that's 9 a.m. Eastern time,
Yep.
6 a.m.
Mhm.
Pacific time. And
Yes.
so tune in if you're going to work. Listen to this wonderful episode. Yeah.
Constantly, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank
I think we
you.
had great times.
Yes, you know how much I love you.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you. Thank
You're always a great teacher. You're
Yeah.
always
oh,
educating all of us.
I'm grateful also,
Yeah,
for
same.
life, for this gift of life. So
Yes.
truly
Yeah.
grateful.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Stay tuned.
Stay
Yeah.
tuned to the next
Stay tuned. Stay
episode.
tuned. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.